So my point is that we have to go in and we have to go in these communities and help, because if we don't do it, who else will?
Well, you make that point. I did a panel and Steve Harvey talked about that. He said that there was a young man who walked up to him in the airport, and he said, in the Atlanta airport, and said, "Man, I love what you're doing." And Steve said, "You know, I saw how he was dressed and do-rag on his head." And Steve said, "I really didn't want to have this conversation." And so they began the dialogue, and Steve began to check him. He said, "Well, first of all, man, get rid of the do-rag." And he said, "Pull your damn pants up." And so he really began to walk him through, and he began to explain to this young man in terms of what he needed to do. And Steve said a year later, when he came up to the airport, the guy told him that he had enrolled in college, he had listened to what he had to say. And I say that because, again, a lot of us, lads, walk past folks every day, and we say, "I don't want to say nothing because they might act a fool. Right. They might cuss me out." But on this whole point of a role model, you never know what a 5-minute conversation may actually do. Yep. And so what would you tell somebody who frequently will walk past somebody and say, "That's not my job, that's their mama's job, that's their daddy's job, and they're not going to listen to me anyway"?
Well, I mean, I definitely think you have to be intelligent about who you check. You can't just go around just checking everybody.
All right, yeah. What does that mean? I mean,
you know, be careful who you check. You know, just check with caution.
So check them in the airport because you know they had to go through security.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a different check than on a street corner.
You know TSA checked them out.
Nah, but, you know, I'm going to say that I have had situations also where somebody has approached me and told me how much they like my work, X, Y, Z, and, you know, then they get into the, well, how can I do this or that? You know, sometimes it doesn't even have to do with acting. And that's your opportunity to you know, if you want to say check or educate, you know, you give them something that's valuable. And to me, you know, time is free. You know, you say time is your biggest commodity, X, Y, Z, but knowledge, you know, me sharing something with somebody, I consider that a blessing more than something I would charge for. And I've had many situations where somebody gave me a gem that I was able to build on. So share it, be honest, and don't be afraid, because when somebody comes to you, it's because they're actually asking for something, and they're open.
Do you have any stories, any one of you, where growing up somebody told you something and you really did not want to hear what they have to say, and you really got an attitude, and several years later you were like, "Man, I wish I had listened to what they had to tell me"? Anybody? You know y'all want to sit here and lie. Y'all go ahead and answer that question.
As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about all those times when my mother told me things that I said, you know, when I have kids, I'm not going to make them do fill in the blank, you know, and then found myself as a mother saying the same things to my own children. So, you know, we do age and grow wiser, but I do think that there are lots of times when, you know, you don't always hear what somebody's trying to tell you. You have to hear it a few times, which is why we all have to participate in sharing the knowledge.
I have one, Roland.
Go ahead.
You know, when I was in college, this one hit me over the head harder than anything. I went to Howard University. Any HU grads in the house? All right. You know, and I was working during school to help make ends meet, and I was a baggage handler at a hotel in Washington, D.C., and my mother put me in piano classes and always told me, study the piano, because one day you might be able to make money doing that instead of flipping burgers. That was her example. I hated the piano. I didn't like it. And I remember Christmas shopping and seeing it was a grand piano sitting there empty and a sign saying they were looking for a piano player. Now, I'm on weekends working 12 hours a day carrying people's bags and parking cars. And I just happened to ask how much they were paying. And they said they were paying $300 an hour for a piano player in Neiman Marcus to come play during the holiday season. And that was, all I heard was my mother's voice in my head saying, "You big dummy, you should have listened." And I should have.
The only thing, I was signing books at a church in Houston, and we ran out, so my dad had to go back to his house to get, my brother's house to get some more of my books, and I was telling the story that, of course, when I was in school, I frequently got in trouble in class, P's and U's, because after I finished my work, I'll be talking to everybody else. And my dad had a little issue with that. And so one day, teacher called. He was upset. And he said, you know, if you don't stop talking in class, I'm going to stomp a mud hole in your ass. I knew what the stomping part was. I did not know what a mud hole was. So when I was speaking at this church, I reminded my dad of that story, and I said, now, Dad, you know, I'm on Tom Jones Morning Show, CNN, TV1, so therefore I get paid to talk for a living. And my parents, of course, are retired, living in my house. The car they drive is paid for, which I paid off. I've taken them on paid vacation, so I told him all that talking was practice.
Right?
And so now he tells me, because then he said, stop talking. Today he said, don't stop talking. So that's why I told him, ignoring your advice paid off.
There it is.
Doc has to go in a few minutes, but I want to get to the next question and want her to answer that before she takes off. Next question is the growing use of technology, smartphones, social media, etc., making it harder for African Americans to create lasting relationships with one another. Yes or no? Now, I don't know if that means dating or friendships. Might find your husband on Facebook. All right, what we got? 65% say yes. 34.8% say no. And Doc, I'm going to flip this a bit beyond just creating lasting relationships, because I would ask you, do you think that social media is also a galvanizing tool for us to be able to reach more people, educate more people, and be able to touch more folks?
I have to say I am a fan of social media, though, you know, all things with
Give
moderation.
your Twitter handle. She's on Twitter.
BDT Spellman.
BDT Spellman. Y'all follow her. Go ahead. Your phone's already out. Stop tripping. Go ahead and follow her. Go ahead, Doc.
And for me, because I am a college president, I travel a lot, I want to stay connected with students, I've found that being on Twitter, for example, is a great way to stay connected to students, let them know what I'm doing. When I meet alums, I take pictures, I post them so students can see what our graduates are doing. It's a lot of great ways to use Twitter, for example. But I also know that we can be sitting in a convocation in Spelman, wanting students to pay attention to what's being said on the stage, and having to remind them to turn the phones off so that they can really focus. You know, we find that sometimes we are using social media in a way that allows us to be too distracted, maybe. So, you know, I think moderation in everything.
First of all, Doc, that means you got a boring commencement speaker.
Not necessarily.
So I'm just letting you know. I mean,
well, let me just say,
all the ones I spoke to, I set it off. So I'm just letting you know.
Well, let me just say, when Mrs.
Obama
was our commencement speaker, when Michelle Obama was our commencement speaker.
But they were tweeting what she had to say, though.
Yes, and no, I mean, I think people were in the audience tweeting, but I'm just saying that there are times when you do have to give an audience or a speaker your full attention, and so maybe it means you're not tweeting just at that moment.
But this generation understands multitasking.
They do, but I'll take it a step further. You know, I believe, I think I alluded to this earlier, I believe the art of communication is incredibly important for us.
All right.
How we carry ourselves, how we show up is incredibly important. And some of our youth today, they don't talk. They text, they're sending messages to each other. So I believe that practice is required to communicate effectively. So that's my concern around the whole social piece. Again, I believe in social media as well. It's an effective tool that we have to embrace, but within reason, within moderation.
And I also want to add in terms of self-presentation. You know, I see messages that sometimes young people post that really don't reflect well on them. And I don't think that people are necessarily...
Be specific, Doc. What you talking about?
Well,
give us an example.
I'm talking about language, okay? You know, using language to refer to each other in ways that you wouldn't want to refer if you were talking to that person in person. I'm talking about, you know, handles, you know what I mean? So my handle is BDT Spellman. My initials, Beverly Daniel Tatum Spellman. But you wouldn't necessarily want the president of Spelman to have, you know, Foxy Lady Spellman, right? You know what I mean? You know, I mean...
I don't know, she's Foxy. Might help with recruitment.
I'm not
Time's
so sure.
tough. HBCU doc may want to raise some money.
I'm just saying that you want to think about, many people, not just your little circle of friends, are going to see what you're posting. You want to put your best foot forward. Yeah.
Even searching.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to take up for the youth, all right? I was born in '88, all right?
Okay,
No.
First of all,
All right? Is that all right?
first of all, calm down.
Oh, Rollins came at me. All right.
That's first.
All right, but seriously,
No,
though.
don't be trying to act like everybody on the stage old or something. I was born in 1988. You about to get cussed out. Go on right ahead.
Oh, man. All
Because
right.
they about to cuss you out like, who the hell invited him?
We all right? I think
Go
we're
ahead.
okay.
All right, you
All right,
born
I'm
in
good?
88. Last, when you born?
We ain't gonna talk about that.
I don't care. I was born in 68. Ain't your point?
Hey, at least you
I'm going
said
to cut
it.
you.
You'll cut me?
I'll cut
You'll
you. Go
cut
ahead.
me?
Go ahead.
All right, man. Almost made me lose my train of thought. But what I was saying is that as I started to work in corporate America, I was having an internship in New York, and there was a student, and she sent when you send an email and you accidentally reply all? This is what she did. On Twitter and Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Follow me, Ashton L. Clark, if you want to. But anyway.
Clark, no E?
No E, C-L-A-R-K. But what happened was that she replied all, right? And there was some executive that said something that she didn't like. And she responded in a nasty manner, right? But replied all. But she didn't just spell out words like Y-O-U. She put the letter U. She made a joke and put L-O-L. And I'm sitting there like, really? Like, is that how we are supposed to act in corporate America? So, she lost her job because of that. If you can imagine. But the point I'm making is that social networking, in a sense, is cool, but people don't, especially our youth, do not know how to interact in these settings because they're so used to texting, and they can't get into a meeting and be able to talk to their, leaders of the executive team, for instance. So
I had a young man send me, I don't know what he was trying to do. He was 14 or 15. He sent me a tweet just straight cussing me out, and he was trying to get some attention for his music. I said, bruh, that's a good way not to get attention. Then I blocked this ignorant behind. But it was amazing to me, though, when I see folks and they're communicating, they really don't get it. And so, therefore, you're having these conversations, and they're calling you the N-word, they cussing you out, and I'm saying, that's really not going to make me really want to help you.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen. So, Doc, as a president of a college, though, have you checked some of your students and said,
I have.
I saw your tweet.
I have.
And I'm just saying freak nasty is not a really good handle. Now, you've seen some handles of some Spelman students.
Well, I've seen, not so much the handles, though I have seen some handles, but I have commented on messages that if you just want to look at somebody's, if you want to follow a conversation and you see a message that, makes you wonder, did you really want to say that? I have sent direct messages, not publicly,
right.
But I've sent direct
Twitter
say? Messages. Often, I don't get replies sometimes, but I've sent.
You were sure with their class?
But I've sent direct messages saying, you might want to think about whether you really want to present yourself this way. In one case, I will share this. I read a message that was posted by a student at another school. I'm not going to name the school.
Go ahead.
But a student
it's just us.
a student at another school. And I wrote to that person, and I said, I really don't think, the person wrote something very disrespectful about a Spelman student. And I commented on it in a direct message, but then I emailed the tweet to the president of that person's school and said, you might want to have a chat with this individual.
Well, I love the people be talking, they talk about stripper poles, and the first thing on their bio, I love Jesus. I'm like, okay, gotcha, check your bio. All right, Dr. Tatum has to go. Doctor, give us some final comments before you take off.
I want to come back to the role model thing to just say that we all have a sphere of influence. It's amazing to me, even on Twitter, people will write to me to say, I've been following you, it really inspires me what you have to say, and I don't know who that person is. You never know who you're influencing. So I just think particularly this audience is an audience that is surely influencing lots of people in the workplace, at home, in the neighborhood, and we need to take that role seriously.
Folks, Dr. Beverly Tatum, President of Spelman College.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.